after a woman was shot dead by unknown gunmen last night.
More must be done from the state to enhance security. They should stop nagging and get to work.
It's a bit scary at the moment because from recent happenings in Kumasi, it's quite scary. From the unrest in the Jura.
We'll hear from the police in the region who are advising residents to be security conscious as it begins review of footage from CCTV cameras. We'll also hear from them and speak live with a member of Parliament's Defence and Interior Committee also tonight.
The Finance Minister should withdraw. If he fails to withdraw the term loan agreement valued at $28 million with NIB, we should reject it as members of Parliament.
Tonight, Parliament's Finance Committee recommends for approval $28 million car loan facility for members of Parliament. The committee, however, wants this to be the last of such arrangement and is recommending the arrangement to be discontinued. We have details of that. Meanwhile, Health Minister expected to appear before Parliamentary Committee set up to probe government contracts to purchase Sputnik V vaccines. Details of that.
And in business, Ghana projects to save more than 3 billion Ghana cedis every year as the single payment platform for government services and transactions. Ghana.gov goes live from today.
And in sports, Ghana on the verge of securing a top spot in the ongoing Rugby African Cup. We have more on that and later on the Joy Clean Ghana campaign. Where do you get your favorite kinky from?
So as at now, we've consecrated this kenke because when she's preparing the kenke is very bad. She herself, she is sick and she doesn't even know the kind of sickness that she's suffering from.
I have details from Choko where AMA officials have served abatement notices to kenke vendors preparing and selling the meal under highly unsanitary conditions. That and more in tonight's edition of Newsnight. I know you love your kenke, but what are your thoughts on stories you've heard so far and about to hear is on 055 1111 997. We're also live on Facebook. You can leave your comments there. I am Emefa Apawu. Thanks for choosing us tonight. We start off from Kumasi, the Ashanti regional capital, where residents there are raising concerns over what they say is rising insecurity situation after a woman was shot dead by unknown gunmen last night. The region in recent weeks have recorded some heinous crimes like the decapitation of a head teacher, the shooting to death of a woman driving a Range Rover, broad daylight robbery of mobile money merchants, amongst others. Here are some residents who say the police must intensify its operations.
Worrying in the sense that these young guys who are on motorbikes are making life difficult for people in the metropolis. They are so dangerous that even as at 5:30 a.m. you could be attacked. At night too, some of the street lights are not functioning. You realize the street lights isn't working now. I'm talking about Accra Kumasi Highway, You hear the security or the police calling on the masses that we have to take our personal security serious, which is true. However, the road is darkened. More must be done from the state to enhance security. They should stop nagging and get to work.
It's a bit scary at the moment because from recent happenings in Kumasi, it's quite scary. From the unrest in the Jura, the Uber driver that got beheaded recently, the mobile money heist in Bantama, a man got shot in Bokrom as well. So right now, it's a bit scary in Kumasi. And we live in a little bit of fear. I wouldn't say the police are not on top of issues, but it's quite scary at the moment.
We just show up, but we are not really involved, especially with the security personnel and the policemen. We just try to play it safe. Okay, no one is willing to put their lives on for other people.
Currently, I would say security in Kumasi is very, very poor. And also it applies nationwide because due to the current killings and robberies going on in the country, we don't feel safe anymore in the country. So, and I would also say it's due to economic hardship. So we are currently living in a country where it's survival by the fittest, and you never know if you might be next. So we all pray that the security will be well managed in the city.
Those were some residents of Kumasi. My colleague, Kwesi Parker Wilson of the Joy Research Desk, has been listing some of the recent crimes in Kumasi.
February 8, gunmen attacked and injured 3 persons at Action Prayer Ministry, that is Achema Kufaridia. Move forward to March 25. A road engineer in Kumasi was also shot in the head by armed robbers. We are told that that happened around his residence at Bokrom. And we know about the Bantama robbery incident where 4 suspected armed robbers attacked a mobile money vendor at Bantama at gunpoint. And also in Bokrom again, another guy was attacked and the armed robbers bought with 140,000 Ghana cedi. That was broad day armed robbery attack. And just yesterday, we also heard about the latest incident of the young girl.
Well, so that's Kwesi Pakawolson of the Joy Research Desk cataloguing some of the recent crimes in Kumasi. Nanaya Ojima has been following up on the latest incident as well as the others as well. Let's get a sense of what actually is happening in the region. Nanaya, in the last 2 weeks, you've reported on some of the heinous crimes, the beheading of a driver amongst others. What is the general sense of security in the region with the people that you've interacted with so far?
So adding to the number of murder cases or cases that we suspect that the victims were murdered is another one that was recorded over the weekend at Obuasi. That's the alleged killing of a 2-year-old who got missing for about 2 days before they later realized or saw her dead body in a thing. So these are, it adds up to the numbers that we've been recording in the Ashanti region recently. But as I speak, most of the people that you meet on the streets are afraid. They fear for their lives, especially those who live in the areas that have recorded similar incidents. For instance, not too long ago, I picked an Uber driver who would force me to sit with him in the front seat. So it should tell you that a lot of people in the region are afraid of after the recording of such incidents, and then most of them have lost trust in the police, even though the police continuously assure people of their safety. The people would not take the assurance. A lot of people are now closing from work early, getting to their homes earlier than they used to.
Okay, well, but some of these residents, we've heard some of them, they've been also interacting with you on this, those who would speak off record and on record. What do they think is contributing to this? What are their thoughts?
So people are giving diverse reasons for the crimes that are being recorded in the Ashanti region. For instance, we heard somebody talk about the lightning situation in the city, the whole of the Kumasi Accra road, especially entering Kumasi. Most of the lights are not working. So people believe that this could be a contributory factor to the incidents that you are recording. Others believe that the police are not updated with the new trends of crime that are being recorded in the region. So there's need for police to update themselves with the new trends that we are seeing in Kumasi. And also, proliferation of arms is also one of the things that people are mentioning, because until recently it was difficult to see people wielding guns and perpetrating such crimes. But this has become a norm with all the armed robbery incidents that are happening in Kumasi. So people are giving different reasons for the heinous crimes that we are recording in the Ashanti region.
Thank you very much, Nanaya Ojima, there following up on the recent crimes that have occurred and the killing of some residents. And you heard some residents there raising concerns about it. Meanwhile, police in the region say it is reviewing footage from CCTV cameras mounted at the busy Maxima Junction, where a woman believed to be in her 20s was shot dead by unknown gunmen just last night. ASP Godwin Ahianyo speaks for the Ashanti Region Police. He's been speaking to my colleague, Love FM's David Akwete.
The cameras are connected to those monitors. We have some at the National Security Secretariat. So we are coordinating with them. So whatever happens within the metropolis, wherever we have the cameras, we are able to visit the cameras, the video footages, and then we are, as part of our investigations, when we do the analysis of the video footages, we are able to identify the culprit. Because when, for instance, when a vehicle is used, we will definitely be able to identify that particular vehicle that was used. And through the appropriate authorities, the courtesies who are in charge of those institutions, we are able to track and get them arrested. We have done it before. If you remember, recently I told you somebody was murdered, and I told you we are in touch with the National Security Secretariat, and we are doing it. We are doing the analysis, and I'm sure pretty soon we'll be able to get the perpetrators and then arrest them. So mostly we advise that whilst we are performing our mandate as a security agency, we advise all of us to also be mindful of the kind of or the places we go to and the kind of things we see wherever we find ourselves. Let me just use this opportunity to advise that if you are a victim of crime and you see that the people are armed, they can harm you, whatever valuable that you are having, your life is more precious than the valuable you are holding. We advise that you will allow them to take the thing away. Since you are alive, God will provide you with the same.
That's ASP Godwin Ahianyo, spokesperson for the Ashanti Region Police. Well, some few weeks ago, when he spoke to Ohiming Terry of our security desk, he shut down claims that the region is experiencing an increase in crime.
We are not losing it at all. Talk about crime situation in the region. Comparing these cases you're talking about and that of last year and then the past years, I would say relatively crime is low. Per our statistics, the first and second quarter of this year, we have not had cases on the ascendancy. They are rather very low. But we have recorded 1 or 2 violent cases. For which reason you are trying to, create impression? Well, perhaps we had also had some conversation with the general public, and this is what they are telling you. But as a spokesperson for this noble institution, I can stand and then tap my chest to say that crime in the region is very low.
That's ASP Godwin Ahianyo there. Well, let's bring in a member of the Defence and Interior Committee of Parliament. He's also MP for Owa West, retired Superintendent of Police, Peter Lanchini Tobu. We're grateful for your time here on Newsnight. So you would have a better appreciation and understanding of the situation as it stands now. In the past 2 weeks alone, we've recorded or reported on some of these heinous crimes, from the beheading of a driver who is also a teacher. We've also reported on the death of a 2-year-old girl who went missing but was found later. And then also just last night at the Maxima Junction, a woman believed in her 20s was shot dead by unknown gunmen last night. Residents are actually concerned about this situation. What really could be responsible for where we are now in terms of these crimes we are recording in the Ashanti region?
Thank you very much, Emefa. Let me say good evening to our cherished listeners. Matters of security are always matters that we don't have to take lightly. And when they happen, they become news everywhere. And sometimes you don't even need to announce them before people get to know that somebody has been beheaded and somebody has been shot dead and somebody got missing and somebody's motorbike is stolen and all that. These are all concerns for the people of this country. And I think that our collective security should be of major concern to all of us. But times are hard and the opportunities for crime in this country abound. The level of the level of carelessness in terms of personal security is something that we need to be taking care of. Challenges in the economy due to COVID has made times very hard and people are really suffering. The debilitating effect of youth and unemployment is also a big challenge. There are a lot of young men, energetic young men, walking our streets not knowing how to get their daily bread for the next 2-3 hours. Our failure to be innovative in ensuring that the nation's mineral resources are mined decently with high level of local content in terms of labor has also created this unemployment rate which is rising by day and night. The violent nature of Galamsey itself over the years has transformed our youth into very violent people, many of them. If you know how Galamsey is done, it is a very violent enterprise, and if you have a young man who goes into Galamsey for 1 year, his psychology is completely changed. Proliferation of small arms and light weapons. As of 2014, small arms and light weapons in consultation with the Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Training Center conducted research, and it came out that over 2 million small arms and light weapons were in illegal hands. That was as far back as 2014, 7 years ago. And it tells you as we speak now, because of the threat of terrorism from Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso now threatening Ghana, there are a lot of small arms and light weapons within our vicinity. All these things polarize the security environment. One thing that is also major, that since 1993, when we shifted from military rule into the Fourth Republic, we have not made any conscious effort to equip the Ghana Police Service to play its lead role effectively as the lead agency in terms of law enforcement. all we have done is to say is to say that we must equip and maintain the police, but we've never walked the talk. So if you weaken the police service, you will gradually see that crime is changing and the modus is becoming complicated, and the police are battling it, doing their best. Yet their best is not meeting the expectation of the Ghanaian people. And that is why the fear of crime is eating people up. Right now, it's not even the crime. If you look at the crime statistics, just like the Ashanti region people will tell you, the statistics look good. Oh, yes. But 2 violent crimes can be committed that will just totally obliterate the history of 50 of them that were committed in the past because of the modus operandi. The modus operandi is creating fear and panic among people in communities. So we should be up and doing. These are many of the things that are culminated into what we are experiencing today. It has taken some time, but we need to sit up as a country and say, when we say the safety and security of the Ghanaian is paramount for governance, we should say it and walk the talk.
Well, most of us are still hopeful that something can be done about the situation. But to the extent that sometimes when these issues are raised like this also, you have members of the police service shooting it down, saying that crime is not on the increase. How then do we get to save the situation and to help to ensure that, the situation is actually saved?
I think that's a professional statement to be able to encourage people. You don't expect the police to come out and say, oh, yes, we are overwhelmed. And professionally, nobody will do that. Probably sitting as a member of parliament and representing a lot of people in my constituency, they will want me to say it the way it is, because we need to all together as a people react positively, support the police to stand firm, and be able to have the muscle to face the criminal boot for boot and deal with them so that this thing can reduce, so that we have some level of decency in our country. So it is not a problem for me to hear a police officer saying that, oh, we are in control, oh, crime is not going up. But for you and I, the fear of crime is eating us up, and we should agree that we need to do something about it.
We're indeed grateful for your time. That's a retired Superintendent of Police, Peter Lanchene Tobu. He's also MP for Wa West. We'll go to Parliament shortly, and we know that the Finance Committee has recommended for approval the $28 million car loan facility for members of Parliament. The committee, however, wants this to be the last of such arrangements. They're also recommending that the arrangement is discontinued. I'll go for a quick break here on Newsnight. We're right back with that.
Hey, Charlie, my network is really killing me. I have to pay my uncle's workers via mobile money, but the charges alone, it's about 380 cedis.
Charges alone just to send money? That's $10 of cement already, my guy. Listen, bro, you can save money on charges if you move to Vodafone Cash now.
Vodafone Cash? But my network is...
Hey, sending money on that your network, you pay. Sending money on your network to other networks, you pay. But guess what? Sending money on Vodafone Cash is free. Sending money on Vodafone Cash to all other networks is also absolutely free. No charges at all on Vodafone Cash. So tell me, what are you still doing on that your network? Massa, look sharp, then move to Vodafone Cash.
Hey, make a change the SIM right now.
Yes, sending money on Vodafone Cash to all other networks is now absolutely free. Send unlimited amounts of money as many times as you like for free. Just dial *110# now to send money.
Let me explain in here. I'm a mistake where I use cement for all your projects. That's why Gassem, with 50 years experience, was to develop various greater, what are your various jobs? What was super rapid 32.5 hours? On know you're suitable for your dream house. As your screening or the Duchy, Nazi or plastering, or man, perfect finish. Gassem, what was super strong 42.5 hours? Or your best suited for slab, pavement blocks, Nesezich blocks, Nankasa, Archie pumping. More. For the biggest construction works like roads, bridges, on your high-rise buildings, contractor and use Gassem Extra 42.5N. Missing it be there. Choose Gassem always.
In these uncertain times, stay safe and follow all the COVID-19 safety protocols.
Gassem, the nation builder.
Cloudy today, brighter tomorrow. Activa Insurance.
You've worked hard to have that property, the house, the car. Insure it. Your business assets are valuable. You must insure them now with Activa Insurance.
For all your business and personal insurance needs, insure with Activa International Insurance. Sign up by dialing *713*313# or visit activa-ghana.com or download the Activa Insurance app on Google Play and Apple Store. Activa International Insurance. Our clients, our passion.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Thanks for your company here on Newsnight. Let's go to Parliament, where the Finance Committee there has recommended for approval the $28 million car loan facility for members of the House. The committee, however, wants this to be the last of such arrangement. You'll recall North Tong MP Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa and Okankwe Central MP Patrick Yabuama both filed a private member's motion asking the House to reject this loan agreement between the government and the National Investment Bank, which facilitates the purchase of vehicles for MPs. They believe the move would save the nation millions.
We are saying that the state should withdraw. The finance minister should withdraw. If he fails to withdraw the term loan agreement valued at $28 million with NIB, we should reject it as members of parliament. Let's vote. And that is why this is a bipartisan vote. Okay. And we are hoping that we can all rally our colleagues on both sides of the aisle to reject this loan facility, and then the state should make provision for MPs like it does for ministers, for judges, for all these constitutional bodies.
It's in the Ntiamabedu report. Actually states that the need for equity among Article 71 holders is important. But in the report, which was way back in 2019, it was written that members of parliament acknowledged that having cars procured for them as duty post vehicles would be an unnecessary burden on the state, and so it will be necessary to have this loan agreement. You were a member of parliament at the time. What has changed?
Initially, if you look at the Hansards, I have raised reservations about these matters. But this is the first time that I seem to be getting some, support across the aisle, and we are able to file a private member's motion. We're taking advantage of also the unique, nature of this parliament, where for the first time you have a speaker who does not belong to the president's party, is not part of the ruling party. So we are in these uncharted waters, which afford us the opportunity to take some of these views that we hold forward.
That's North Tong MP Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa interacting with Daniel Datsi, a host of On the Record on the Joy Prime channel. Well, the report by the Finance Committee has been duly laid on the floor of the House awaiting approval. Well, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo joins us on the phone with details of that. Joseph, we've been looking at that report, and it appears that the 60% part where the government absorbs is conspicuously missing in this particular report that has been laid on the floor of Parliament. Do we have any explanation as to why?
Well, the report doesn't explain why. It doesn't make any reference at all to the bit of the loan facility having to do with the 60% that the document that was initially laid on the floor of the House by Deputy Finance Minister Abner Sayasari having to do with this particular loan did state the bit having to do with MPs having to pay 40% and government having to pay 60%. But if you look at what is contained in this report of the Finance Committee, it only makes the point that the car loan is $28 million. The interest rate is 8%. There is a 1.5% flat facility amount, and it will be paid back within a 45-month duration. And then it talks about how there is a tax waiver to the tune of $13.158 million, covering both the loan facility for the MPs, which is up to $28 million, and another $3.5 million that's going to members of the Council of State. But it makes no specific reference to the repayment. It actually, again, makes the point that with a tax waiver, MPs will be allowed to get tax waiver on two of the vehicles that they purchase, and the tax waiver will not exceed $43,000 for any MP. But there is no reference to the other bit. And the other bit of this document is that although it's recommending approval for this particular facility, it goes ahead to make the point that when it comes to going into the future, the committee is recommending that there should be a discontinuation of the arrangement where loans are given to MPs in order for them to purchase vehicles and use, and rather, government should take the necessary steps to provide them with the necessary transportation facilities as is expected of government for them to be able to do their work duly.
And I suppose all members are in approval of this particular proposal put forward by the Finance Committee.
As far as the Finance Committee is concerned, the recommendation for approval is actually a consensus one from what we're gathering, with no MP dissenting as far as the request is concerned.
Okay, thank you very much, Joseph Opoku Gakpo, parliamentary correspondent. Let's now bring in Samuel Okudze to our Blackward, the North Tongue MP. He's been pushing for the discontinuation of this so that all MPs can find their own way when it comes to these car loans. We are grateful for your time, sir, tonight on Newsnight. Well, so the motion that you filed, we're also hearing this evening that the Finance Committee of Parliament has recommended for approval this particular facility that goes up to $28 million. But they are also recommending that going forward, government should rather provide means of transportation. Is that what you are also pushing for?
Well, good evening, Emefa. The fundamental principle, which some of us have been pushing for, is that the loan agreement where loans are arranged to provide vehicles for members of parliament, that practice should be discontinued. The Finance Committee, which I'm not a member of, as you do know, appears quite clearly from the reports that I have obtained, appears to be aligning with us, except that there is a slight variation. Some of us had been pushing that it should take effect immediately. But the Finance Committee is proposing that because of how far they have gone with arrangements, the Finance Minister appears to have reached an agreement with the National Investment Bank. And I'm told that some MPs too appear to have already initiated talks with some transportation providers. And so they have been appealing to the Honorable Patrick Boama and I, who co-sponsored the private members' motion, that we may have to support them, that the practice is allowed because of how far in the day they have gone with arrangements. And then for the 9th Parliament, this would not happen. I can confirm to you that those discussions are ongoing. The Honorable Patrick Boama and I are still considering the facts, and we are expected to go into a committee of the whole either later tonight or tomorrow, and then we will know if we will want to communicate to Speaker what the way forward should be, so far as our private members' motion is concerned. Because at the end of the day, we also need the votes of honourable members to be able to succeed in the agenda that we are pushing. That is, if the practice will be discontinued for this 8th Parliament, we need the votes of majority of colleagues. So the talks are going on, the horse trading continues. But more fundamentally, Emefa, my position is that we should carry out a total overhaul. The destination that some of us want to get to is where an independent emoluments commission determines all of these things. Remove all the politicians, all the Article 71 office holders away from the determination. Just remove us from it. Let there be an independent body that should make this determination. As the Constitution Review Commission said, the current arrangement is incestuous, and no matter what you do, there is no public confidence in the process, where the legislature approves that of the executive approves that of the legislature. Scratch my back, I scratch your back. We want to get to a destination, and very soon, where it is an independent body. Because, you see, we are setting ourselves up for needless opprobrium, needless criticism,
and attacks, and it's not sustainable. And you see, people are losing confidence in leadership, in the political class in particular, and we cannot continue that way. So these are all steps towards those major reforms, those major overhauls that some of us are agitating for. And I hope we get there very soon.
Okay, we'll be following up on that closely. That's the North Tongue MP, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa. I'll stay a while longer in Parliament before I go for business with George Weah, because a 9-member committee set up to probe government contracts to purchase Sputnik V vaccines will begin public hearing tomorrow. Health Minister Kweku Agyemang-Manu is expected to be the first witness to appear before the committee. As its first closed sitting on Tuesday, the committee agreed on modalities for the hearing, including the public inquiry. Joseph will take us through that. What exactly were the modalities agreed on? Do we know?
So there are about 5 or 6 terms of reference that the committee will be dealing with. First of all, they will be determining. They would actually be determining whether the planned procurement of the Sputnik vaccine from the said Russian intermediaries were contracts that required the necessary parliamentary approval before the government signed them. They would also be determining whether the services of the middlemen were procured appropriately and in accordance with the relevant laws of the country. They would also be determining the cost of the vaccines that were being procured and the justification for the cost, and whether the transaction actually guaranteed value for money. And they would also be determining whether the government of Ghana in the said transaction actually ensured a situation where there was value for money. And finally, they will be determining whether the Minister of Health misled Parliament when he told Parliament that no vaccine would cost more than $10.5 million, $10.5, because then the claim is that when he told that to Parliament, he had already signed a contract that was supposed to be around $19 in terms of each dose of vaccine.
So we know that the health minister will be the first to appear before the committee when they begin that public hearing. Do we also know who are the others that they're expecting to appear before them?
We gather that letters have been dispatched to officials of the Ghana Health Service in order for them to also come provide some form of testimony as far as this issue is concerned. On the health minister's bit, a letter was dispatched to him about 2 days ago in order to get him to appear before the committee. From what I'm gathering from the committee as of this evening, he's yet to confirm his availability for the session tomorrow and whether he will be able to show up, but the committee has indicated that they'll go ahead and sit regardless of whether he shows up or not.
Okay, that's Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. Great reporting there. We are grateful for your time. That's giving us details on that public hearing. Of course, we'll be following that and bring you the very latest on this. Of course, we'll bring you live coverage as well on the Joy News channel and all our social media platforms. This is Newsnight here on Joy 99.7 FM. When we return from business, we have Joy Clean Ghana campaign, and the question is on as to where you get your favorite gakenke. Do you know the conditions under which they're prepared?
So as at now, we've consecrated this kenke because when she's preparing the kenke is very bad. She herself, she is sick, and she doesn't even know the kind of sickness that she's suffering from.
You want to stay for that already? There are those who are texting that after it's prepared and the heat and all that, all the germs would die. Well, George doesn't like kinky, so
I do, Emefa. I do. I like my kinky with the hot pepper and some pork wouldn't be bad.
Pork and then the little shrimps, and the pepper must be very hot.
Of course, you know.
Do you know pusna? Do you know octopus?
I'm a fancy, so I like a pusna.
So you get a little octopus on the side and 1,000 as well.
1,000 maybe for
just fried egg, small
just
fried
for
egg.
Garnishing if you can garnish.
Garnish if it soaks the pepper.
Well,
that's business.
From food, let's talk about money. And Ghana projects to save more than 3 billion Ghana cedis annually as the single payment platform for government services, Ghana.gov, goes live from today. We'll be getting you more details on that one. And Ghana's Statistical Service not sure about the single-digit inflation being sustained going forward in the other months. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all your office essentials and Allianz Life. Let's now settle for the details. Now, government is projecting an initial savings of 3 billion Ghana cedis every year when it comes to tax collections. Now, it follows the launch of government's single digital platform, that is Ghana.gov, which allows the public to apply and pay for all government services and goods online with their debit and credit cards, as well as the mobile money. Speaking on the launch of the platform, Vice President Dr. Muhammad Dubamia said this couldn't have come at a better time.
We had a video where the Ministry of Tourism, the representative, was talking about how they digitize payments in places like Elmina Castle. What he did not tell you was that that pilot for the Ministry of Tourism, for those centers, increased revenue by fourfold. There was a fourfold jump in revenue just by digitizing the process. So you just wonder where the cash was going. Also, the sheer convenience of enabling all of us to pay for government services with our mobile money, our bank accounts, our new QR code, our fintech apps on our phones, or even, the hassle of going through long queues and hopping from office to office just to make a payment for a government service will simply become a thing of the past. Second, Ghana.gov will redefine how we all engage with government.
Vice President Dr. Muhammad Dubamia. Now, the Ghana Statistical Service has indicated that it's not sure about whether the single-digit inflation rate being recorded could be sustained going forward. Inflation rate has hit the single-digit rate since April this year. However, there are concerns about whether this could be sustained looking at the rising prices of goods and services. Now, getting out of this band might signify that the era of the slow rate at which prices are going up might be over. Let's hear from the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kobnenin.
So from a retrospective point of view, just as we've seen for this year and in previous years, one would want to say that we should expect something like that, but we always end by saying it isn't only one factor, i.e. rainy season, that would determine the outcome. That factor would have to grapple with other conditions like what policies will be put in place, how non-food inflation is going to impact relative to food inflation. So we are a bit more careful saying that we are definitely going to sustain a single-digit inflation moving into the next months.
And that is the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kobnenim. Inflation actually went up marginally to hit 7.8% for the month of June 2021. Now, Tullow Oil continues to show signs of strong recovery with respect to coming out of the effects of COVID-19 on its operations. Its half-year numbers show that it managed to beat the gross production target estimates for the first half of this year. Average production was pegged at around 70,000 barrels of crude oil a day, while the turnaround time for production on the FPSO is now over 98%. Group Chief Executive of Tullow Oil, Rahul Den, has been speaking about how these developments mean for the company going forward.
I think we're very excited about the potential we have in front of us. I think I look at today as if it's a completely fresh start. So it's like I just said to you, George, we just discovered 2.6 billion barrels of oil, and somehow magically, I don't know how, nature, God, whoever you believe in, put all this infrastructure in place. So in that sense, yes, I think it's to me, it's very, very exciting. I think it's also humbling because we are dealing with nature, we are dealing with very complex technology, very complex engineering. So we cannot be complacent. Every day requires attention. So I don't think that we will ever, I would say to you, if we're sitting here a year from now, I would say to you, George, we could declare victory.
And that's the group chief executive of Tullow Oil, Rahul Den. Now, Tullow Oil says one of its fresh oil wells that it started working on the Jubilee oil fields has made some significant progress. It has added 10,000 barrels of crude oil to the overall production, signifying that going forward, they could be making more explorations from the Jubilee field, and a sign that they are indeed turning the corner in terms of the shocks coming from COVID-19 on its operations. And that's all for business on Newsnight. Back to you, Emefa.
Well, George, thank you. And enjoy your kinky tonight, okay?
All right.
Well,
We'll do that after the show, right?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
All right.
Let's take some of your messages. I'm still trying to appreciate what Erastus's crime is, where the protesters on the street as a result of his reportage, or he pre-informed the people of the end results of the protests. Enough is enough. And then that's Emmett from Oyibi. James Kumbeni from Talensi says security is number one of Ghana's problems. Most of the crimes these days now involve gangs. Something should be done to retrieve gangs from unlicensed holders. Charles Little Jr. in East Legon says, why have we as a nation allowed the monster to grow? If it were an ordinary Ghanaian that made such terrible pronouncement, he or she will be behind bars by now. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Abochi Philip from Keta says insecurity in Ghana is getting out of hand. Daylight robbery and shoot and kill is one of the business wicked armed robbers are doing now. He's appealing to government to create more jobs for the youth in the country. Samin Kumasi says referring Kennedy Agyapong to Privileges Committee of Parliament will amount to nothing because this is not the first time he has been dragged before that committee, but no punitive or deterring punitive action was taken against him. The best thing for the multimedia is to give blackout to all activities relating to government and MPP. That's from Sami, your message there. And this one says, as for issues concerning the welfare of MPs, they are quick to finance it. But for other public workers, Masafa teachers are owed arrears for God knows when they've not been paid. The youth will one day rise against politicians. Andrews sends that one in. And in all honesty, this one says, MPP party as a whole is afraid of Kennedy Agyapong. The man has misbehaved and been lousy several times, even insulted judges, and still on their platform. Nana from Spintex Road sends that one in. And if Kennedy Agyapong is not investigated for threatening Erastus Asare Donko, then every Ghanaian should take his destiny into his own hands. Kofi Seidu says, I'm not sure I would have to get to that, Kofi Seidu. So let's do some other stories now on Newsnight. Thank you so much for your comments that you've sent both via WhatsApp and on Facebook as well. The Ghana Health Service has debunked assertions that the country's ICU beds are getting full. Director General of the service, Dr. Patrick Kumabwaje, revealed that there is rather an increase in people who contract COVID-19 and require hospital admission and not those necessarily in critical condition. Providing an update on Ghana's case management, he also disclosed that although cases that need hospitalization are rising, there's a lower number of cases in critical condition. There have been reports that the country's ICU beds are getting full, but the Director General says there's no cause for alarm.
We have more than 2,000 active cases, and we have an average case count of about 120 cases, mainly in Accra, Greater Accra, and Ashanti. Severe and critical care cases still, however, remain low, but it's not like, let's say, 4 weeks ago. We are having some increase, but still not high. Greater Accra and Ashanti regions are driving the outbreak in the country. Almost all the cases are in this. Once in a while, we have a few cases in Eastern and other places. We have report outbreaks. Mainly, this outbreak has been more of clusters. We have them in schools and workplaces. For the past 6 to 8 weeks, we've not had vaccination, and that's one situation. And as we are all aware, adherence to protocol is generally low, and this is a call that we need to be able to take that seriously, especially in the wake of the current changes. When it comes to the arrivals, we also started seeing a slight increase, which I'll show you later. We've so far had about 1,997 people testing positive on arrival, tested more than 366,000 people. Positivity rate is lower than the general community population, which is about 0.55, and the males account for the larger proportion of the cases. The slight increase as you go on. The critical cases are not significantly increasing. It tells you that we are having some surge in the number of cases, which is, of course, represent a proportion of those who are positive.
So Dr. Patrick Kumabwaji has also been providing updates on vaccines to be received by the country.
We are expecting about 1.2 million Pfizer vaccines from COVAX through the US through the COVAX for us. And we are hoping that later by middle of August, it should be available for that. We also, as mentioned earlier, about 250,000 doses of AstraZeneca will be coming in for the second dose of those people. But obviously, we continue engaging other options to ensure that we have enough to cover all those who are waiting for their second dose. For Johnson & Johnson, we have an agreement with AU for about 17 million doses. We are expecting that by middle of August or end of July, we actually mentioned that maybe by end of July we may get some sample. But I think because of all this schedule and changes, we are just making it tentative. But if it happens, that's what we are all hoping for, so that we can start giving some Johnson & Johnson as part of the.
That's the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumwabaji, addressing the media earlier today. Well, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital will soon be able to supply oxygen to other health facilities. This comes after the hospital expanded its oxygen supply unit from its current state to a new one where oxygen can be supplied to many other units, including the COVID-19 unit. Medical Director Dr. Emmanuel Stropenyo has been speaking to Joy News after the COVID-19 Trust Fund commissioned a 314 million CD 350-meter oxygen pipe for the facility.
The oxygen plant has been delivering oxygen here, but we did not have a plant, or we did not have the pipes that lead to that side. And that is why the idea came that why don't we just have a pipe from the plant? The capacity of the plant was good. It was going to be able to continue supplying this block, and also additionally can take any additional load.
That's the Dr. Emmanuel Stropenyo, is the Director General of the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, Medical Director, I should say, of the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, Dr. Emmanuel Stropenyo there. Now, the Nifahene of Ijra says youth of the town believed delays by police in investigating the attack on social activist Ibrahim Mohammed contributed to the infamous Ijra clashes. The killing of Kaka Macho led to the shooting of to death of 2 people and injuries to 6 others. Nana Osei Kwejo and Sibia II says, although delay in handling the attack may be a factor, it cannot be the only reason for the Ijra clashes. My colleague Ohiming Terrier of our security desk sat through the committee sitting and our reports.
A contingent of chiefs clad in black cloth from Ijra Traditional Council was led by the chief of Ijra, Bema Osekwojo Shedia II, to testify before the committee at the Prempeh Assembly Hall Auditorium. Nana Osekwojo Ansebi, the Nifahene, described by the committee as a man with military background, led the chiefs to testify.
My professor has said a lot about you, so at least sitting here, I know that you have some military background.
Nana Nifahene, my lord has already let the cat out. I didn't want that you have a military background.
And the man with military background went ahead to disagree with suggestions by chairman of the committee, George Kingsley Kumsin, that the disturbances would not have escalated had the municipal commander been proactive with complaints on attack on Kakamechu.
My lord, knowing Ijra as it is and the sort of violence and those things that come in, whether they took immediate action or they delayed, I believe those who did what they did would have done the same thing. It might have contributed to it, but definitely is not the only reason for that.
Not even further questioning from the chair could make Nana Osekwojo change his stance.
If I understand you, you are saying that if the municipal police commander had even acted proactively on the complaint lodged in respect of the assault on Kaka, the youth will still have done what they did.
Yes, my lord.
For a man who supports deployment of the military to complement the under-resourced police service in Ijra, the vehicle used by the officers is of less concern to him.
I wish to say that as to whether the vehicle had Operation Calm Life or COVID on it, there are soldiers in it who came to perform the duty.
Nana Osekwojo proposed the establishment of military detachment in Ijra to scare the violence in youth who may want to take a similar path in the future.
One situation starts this way. By the time you get reinforcement, under the circumstances we all operate, or let him say all the services operate, it becomes very difficult. So we think that if we have them around or a detachment around, they will reinforce the police. And then also, I must say, the police, not that I'm not passing judgment on their performance, but if you say a policeman is coming, there are some people who are doing something, or maybe, let me say, misbehaving. Maybe we just turn around and smile. But the knowledge that we have 1 or 2 soldiers even coming around is enough to deter.
But does politics play out in the Ejura clashes and beyond? Please, don't laugh at Nana Osekojo's answer.
My Lord, there's nothing that happens in Ejura that you can take politics out of it. In Ejura, everything, including weddings, engagements, everything, there's some element of politics in it, depending on who is doing it.
Meanwhile, sitting is suspended until Friday. From Kumasi, for Joy News, Ohemin Teria reporting.
So that's the situation with the Ejura committee today, put together by my colleague Ohemin Teria beautifully. Let's do sports now, and we're focusing on rugby, and Ghana is on the verge of securing a spot in the top 8 of the ongoing Rugby Africa Cup after coming back from behind to beat Algeria. I like that. They came back from behind and they beat Algeria in Kampala this afternoon. Joy Sports, Asare Bediako monitored and has this report.
After suffering a hefty defeat to powerhouse Uganda in their opening game on July 10, Ghana was in a make-or-break situation heading into today's game against Algeria in Kampala. The Eagles produced a spirited display to overturn a horrible first-half result. Ghana, ranked 87th in the world, trailed Algeria 20-3 at halftime, but rallied back in superb fashion to win 22-20. Ghana's coach Lavmo Kuzorera explains why the team was so poor in the first half.
The first half, we made a couple of mistakes. I believe we didn't settle in time, but when we got to half time, we spoke as a team.
Selom Gavo, captain of Ghana's rugby team, reviews why the team was unstoppable in the second half of the game against Algeria.
So in the second half, I think we just decided to look after the ball a bit better. We looked after the ball and kept possession instead of just giving them rights to play with the ball, and we showed what we can do, and we do keep the ball in hand. Some of the backs got ball in hand and really enjoyed it, and that's what you want to do. You want to play smiles on our faces and move the ball around.
Ghana will make it to the top 8 of the Rugby Africa Cup if Uganda beat Algeria on Saturday.
That's Asare Bediako's report. We wish the team well. It's time for our Drive Safe campaign.
Safe driving saves lives. Drive safe.
And crashes on Ghana's roads have worsened, especially this year, as 1,450 people have been killed in 6 months. This is a 27.19% rise compared with same time last year. Out of this number, motorcycle-related accidents killed 622 persons and injured 2,500. While the National Road Safety Authority says it is making gains in other aspects of road safety activities, especially the Okada and tricycle seems to be derailing their efforts. In Techiman, however, traditional rulers have joined local government authorities to change the narrative. Seth Kwame Boateng recently visited these two towns and has come through with this report.
The narrative is that Okada and tricycles quickly sprung up and offered alternative modes of transport. These small vehicles may be everywhere in the town, but they have been confined and restricted to specific streets.
The Tricycle Council is very proactive.
The Dabenhine Ohineba Nana Owusu and Tribu Siako II says one fatal accident triggered this action.
There was a bullion van for Bank of Ghana came to have an accident in Techiman here. All this amount to one of the reckless driving of this tricycle when it crossed a tanker. Then it also veered towards the bullion vans and crashed. We decided to do something.
Under no circumstances must this happen again in this town. That was the resolution the Techiman Traditional Council made after that tragedy. Indeed, they walked the talk and met all interest groups involved and then took action.
We decided to move all the tricycles from the main road, from the Kumasi end to the Holy Family Hospital end. Then we allow their system to be channeled through the bring roads.
So when you come to Techiman today, rarely would you find these commercial motorcycles on any of their highways.
That's Seth Kwame Boateng's report. It's time for our Clean Ghana campaign, and tonight you may want to check where you get your favorite Gakinki from, as it is imagined that the meal is sometimes prepared under extremely unhygienic conditions. A visit by the Joy Clean Ghana team to popular keke spots in Choko revealed swarms of flies on uncovered fermented dough and utensils filled with dirty water, and overtaken by remnants from previous cooking sessions. AMA officials who on the grounds confiscated the fermented dough and issued abatement notices to the vendors. There's more in the following report by Manuel Cranting.
Wahu baby a ha ena mode niama mode ton da ko no nyina esi. Yeah. Nti saa aduane kra nya ade aye ba ba na yenua wa ha maame mori he fa ne fa mori e mori he ne fa no enye efinumu se efinumu ne fa e mori no nti sa wo fa mori wo de mori esi finumu na wo yifi e de besi ha no what's the difference nti dokro no kra nya ade aye ba ma okwan wo beton what you say nti ye be sesa nyama no
so madam what are we going to do now?
What we are doing is you can just look at where she is cooking, where she even put the fermented dough. The whole place is very dirty, very nasty. You can see how the flies are hovering all around. So just goes there, prepare this and come and package it neatly and put it here. You come, you think it's as neat as the surrounding is, but it is not.
This is another kinky vending spot that we are inspecting now.
She baby a wode emori ediesi anti eshila nti ye en se wa hu se enye nti se se ade na opese ye se ahwe mbetumi atu nti ye cho se wa wo se ye betumi atu dia na because she baby a she wo shito apomudin krata wonni bi enu dia me wonni ma dia e friend food poison.
In just a space of about a feet or so, you're having the dough that will be used to prepare the kinky, and then you're having rubbish also with flies hovering all around both of them. And this is where your favorite ga kinky really comes from.
So as at now, we've consecrated this kinky because where she is preparing the kinky is very bad. She herself, she is sick, and she doesn't even know the kind of sickness that she's suffering from.
That's Manuel Cranting's report, Mr. Clean Ghana, today, bringing us a campaign from today, and then Choco. So maybe you may want to get your car kinky from elsewhere and not from Choco. But let's look at stories making the headlines on myjoyonline.com tonight. Speaker of Parliament refers Kennedy Japan to Privileges Committee over threats against journalists. Media Foundation for West Africa appalled at Kennedy Japan's call for Love FM reporter Erastus Asare Donko to be attacked. Also, a dry youth may have reacted same, even if municipal police commander had been proactive with their concerns. That's according to the Dra Nifahene, and it will be fatal to gamble with a Japan's threat against Erastus. GJA, Primpak, and others have been speaking about it. Also, South Africa's Zulu King appeals for end to shameful riots. That's and more on myjoyonline.com. Don't forget also your interventions in Nandom unparalleled. Nandom chiefs to President Akufo-Addo. You want to visit myjoyonline.com for more news. I am Emefa Apawu, and that's how we wrap up tonight's edition of Newsnight. Strong and Sassy is coming up next, and this evening, falling in love, character or looks? Character all the way. Once a man has a good character, he will look good. So that's where we go for. And we have a beautiful host tonight, Aram Yehusi. You want to stay for that. Have a good evening.